Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be creating some eye-catching Copic colored cards featuring brand new stamps and dies from the Colorado Craft Company February 2022 release. They have a new artist, Kris. It's Pretty Little Lines, I believe is her company or her Instagram handle. Check her out. Her images are absolutely adorable and I'm so super excited to be sharing two brand new cards with you today. We are going to start with our little mouse house and mice themed card. It's definitely inspired by the smallest stamp set here. My favorite mouse stamp, well, it's hard to say, but I really love the little individual mouse sleeping on the mushroom. And I thought it would be really cute to combine that mouse with the mouse house and some smaller mice for a nighttime scene. We're going to build a moon background and all of that good stuff. But first, we have a lot of Copic coloring to do. All of the Copic colors I am using today are listed down below the video here on YouTube as well as on my blog. This is a very Copic or coloring heavy project, but I definitely think it's worth the effort. Some of the little tips I'm going to talk about today are things like feathering and not blending out a ton. So you will notice for the stem of the mushroom, I didn't blend it out too much. And if I did, I went back and added some darker areas back in there and feathered it in and tried not to do too much blending. The texture is what we were looking for here. I also opted to do more muted colors, if you will, instead of bright. I have a tendency to do a lot of bright kind of cards, and so I find it fun to kind of push or stretch myself to do something that maybe is a little outside of my comfort zone, and this definitely is one of those things. However, I'm getting a lot more comfortable the more I've done it. I've actually used these kind of muted colors a few times, especially here in the last few weeks. I've really just felt like doing something different. I think we see a lot of rainbow. I am not dissing that at all. You guys know I love a good rainbow. But I do also like to just try to stretch myself, like I said. So we're doing some muted reds, some of my favorite yellow reds for the spots and the underneath of the mushroom. And then I am using my go-to color combination for my mouse, which is E40, 43, and 44 with R00 for the insides of the ears. This is my favorite image. I went ahead and just colored him first because I thought it was so super sweet. I love the little sleeping mouse. I don't know what it is. I know real mice, I'm not a fan, but colored images I love. So definitely just kind of had some fun here. Then I'm going in with some little dot detail with my darkest marker, which is E44, and I'm adding in texture and just kind of adding to the overall detail of my mouse. Now, while I have my earth tone markers out, let's go ahead and color the little itty bitty mice. We are going to color them the exact same way. They are much smaller, so definitely doesn't require quite as much blending and all of that. I will add a little dot detail there. I thought it was really kind of cute and funny to have like this big mushroom next to these little mice, little mouse house buildings, I guess you want to call them. And like the big mouse sleeping on top of the mushroom and then these little itty bitty mice kind of running around outside of it. I wanted the nighttime scene because it always seems like the mice are always running around at night. And so that was kind of my thinking behind building this scene card. I do like to mention that to you guys. I think it's been a little while since I have mentioned it, that one of the big things that I tend to do when I am building a scene card is there is a story back behind it. Both of my cards today kind of have like a little story, or in my head, I'm telling myself a story, I suppose, and they're completely different. One is this little nighttime scene with mice, and the other one is going to be like a little gnome home. I say they're completely different. They both feature homes. What is it, you guys, about like gnome homes or like the little mouse house or whatever? I am here for it. If it is a little pumpkin house, if it's a little acorn house or gnome home house, I want them all. Raise your hand, drop me a comment down below if you are the same way. We're using some red violets for the flower here on top of this part of the house. I think it's so sweet and fun. It kind of ends up being purpley, which I love. So I definitely went with the darker color combination. The light color's pretty pink, and the dark one's pretty purple, but by the time you blend them out, I really feel like you get that purple vibe. And then I used some blue greens for the little stem. There's going to be 3 completely different green color combinations today. So there's this color that I used for the stems of the flowers on top of the mouse house. There's the green color combination that I'm going to use that kind of is crawling up the side of the mouse house. Think ivy or moss. And then there's going to be the green color combination of the plants in the planter outside of the mouse house. The detail on this image is gorgeous. Don't be intimidated by the image. I know it's a lot of coloring. My best advice when attempting to tackle a project like this that does have a lot of coloring is to not feel pressured to do it all at once. If you need to, divide it up into several evenings, that's fine. Watch a movie, listen to an audiobook or a podcast. Find something to kind of help pass the time and truly just enjoy the process of the coloring. I have found that the more I have let go of some of the quote unquote hard and fast rules, the more I have enjoyed coloring. I had kind of stepped away from my Copic markers, not completely, but I wasn't using them as much, and I have really embraced them again lately. And I've really found that if I slightly color outside the line, you can fix it or not. Most of the time you can't even tell. So I just have really decided to kind of embrace that and enjoy what I'm doing. And I think it's all about enjoyment with coloring. Now, maybe Copic markers aren't your thing. That's totally fine too. Use your favorite coloring medium. Use colored pencils. Use watercolor markers like Zigs or Tombows, or watercolor pencils. Whatever it is that you love to use that, because it's just really, really fun to sit down and color an image like this. And I found it extremely relaxing and enjoyable. Okay, one of my new favorite color combinations, I actually used it for the stem on the mushroom, is E81, 84, and 87. I don't know why I have really not used that color combination in the past, but like over the last few weeks, I've used it quite a few times, and you guys, I love it. It's just kind of a different brown color combination. It's not my go-to. So like the barrel and the door, I'm using my go-to E55 and E57. For the mouse, I used E40, 43, and 44. That's kind of my go-to there as well. So this is another earth tone combination that I really am enjoying. So there you might have seen me doing like G24 and 28. That's the brighter green of the grass kind of coming out of the barrel. YG 95 and 99 is the kind of yellow green, I would say, or mossy green that I did up around the window and also kind of climbing up the window. I want to talk a little bit about Colorado Craft Company coordinating dies. If this is your first video that you've watched me where I have crafted with their dies, I talk about this in every video. So for those of you who have been here before, you've heard me say this. They do a fantastic job of creating dies that cut close to the image. Not only do they cut close to the image, it's going to cut out the windows. There is even an optional door. Let's say you want to not die cut the mouse house. Maybe you want to stamp it directly on the background and you just want the door to open. Or maybe you're like me, I die cut the house and then I was like, I want the door to open. So I went ahead and used the door. The door is a separate piece and it die cuts. That allowed me to have my one of the little mice peeking out the door. So they just really think of everything. It's going to cut around, for example, the mouse that I stamped down below the mouse house, it cuts around the tail really closely. I'm always just really impressed with their dies and how closely they cut to the actual images. So that's just a little note that I want to throw out there because I really do appreciate the thought that goes into their dies. Did like some warm grays with the stonework around the door, a little red accent, of course, a red flower on top of that house. And then I didn't really color in the greenery around the door. I did color it, but I didn't like use a normal coloring motion, I guess I should say. I used a dot motion just to give that texture. Okay, everything is cut. Let's die cut. And then we can build our background and put it all together. I'm going to grab my coordinating dies and I am going to tape everything in place. And then we will simply run this through our die cutting machine. Now, I do want to tell you that for whatever reason, the coordinating die for the sleeping mouse was not in my package. So there was a couple of little, shipping errors or whatever. It happens because these are prototypes usually that we get here early. And so I actually die cut everything I had dies for, and then I die cut that individual mouse with my Brother Scan and Cut. I know I've got a lot of questions from you guys about the Brother Scan and Cut, so I wanted to mention that here so that you see when I put them together, I don't really think that you see a ton of difference. Now that you know, maybe you will, but I did want to show you just how well it does cut around the image. Keep in mind for things like certain images, it's not going to cut like a regular die, but it is a fantastic option and I always love it if I don't have a coordinating die. So there I did the little door die and I can then open up the door. I love it. I mean, how fun is that? You guys, I'm just in love with this. I think it's the cutest little house. I was thrilled with how it turned out. Okay, now I want to build a background scene. I spent all of this time coloring these images, so I want to create something really pretty, but these images are going to take up most of the card. So I recently used the Tim Holtz moon mask for another video. In fact, I think it was another video this week. I'm trying to think what order these came out in. My Hero Arts February, my monthly hero. And I still had this out and I was like, you know what? A moon would look amazing back behind this. So I'm actually using the medium size moon from the Tim Holtz moon masks. And we're using some Speckled Egg Distress Oxide ink. Something about the moon masks, I bought these back. I think they came out, around like, let's say fall, Halloween, Christmas, and there were lots of samples with that. I've really been wanting to show how moon masks can be used for lots of different things. This is a completely everyday kind of card, and the moon masks are amazing. So I used the solid mask. I inked around it with Speckled Egg. Then I removed the solid mask, and I went ahead and applied a little more Speckled Egg ink to the moon area. That's actually going to be kind of the base color of my moon, but I want that to be a lighter area, but I don't want that line to be so stark. So see how it's really sharp edges there. Then I added Prize Ribbon Distress Oxide ink, and then I'm actually removing the mask and going back over that area with a little prize ribbon. So we're just going to continually do that so that the edges are nice and soft and pretty, and it really looks like the moon hanging in the sky, like let's say out in this field or out in the yard or the garden where these mice are living. Then, of course, some Black Soot Distress Oxide ink is perfect for darkening up our night sky. I'm going to pull a little of that in. I'm not really re-inking the blending brush when I'm going over the solid moon, just kind of pulling whatever's left over on the blending brush into that area. And then I did take the layering stencil for the moon mask with black soot and added that detail before going back with my blue blending brush. That was a mouthful, and blending that out more. And I love it. It's soft, it's pretty, and I think it's going to be the perfect background for this little nighttime scene. For the grass along the bottom edge, because the images really take up most of the room, we'll use a little peeled paint Distress Oxide ink and just blend that into the bottom of our panel. I'll blend a little of the blue ink down into the green to soften that edge a little bit. And there we go. I love it. I think it's going to be really, really cute. Now, I, of course, cannot leave my background as is because I love adding like a starry sky to this. Before we do that, though, I am going to go ahead and I guess get my head in the way, so sorry. I'm going to stamp my greeting. This is from the Mouse House stamp set. I am using the Rabbit Hole Designs new powder tool. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love it so much. I've needed a new powder tool for a while, and I ordered this from them, and I got it this week, and I love it. Definitely check that out. There's refills for the powder as well. I'm going to stamp my greeting with clear embossing ink. I am using my Misty. It's a good thing I did. I did not get my greeting stamped great. I'm going to emboss it with white embossing powder, and I can totally see I'm missing like the loops in the words way and every. I chose to use the greeting, I hope your day is fantastic in every way. I think this card works for lots of occasions, and you could even maybe add a birthday greeting inside, and it could be a birthday card or just an encouragement card, thinking of you card, friendship card, anything like that. Definitely not sending this card to my friend Karen. She does not like mice. Just a shout out to Karen. She's probably not watching this video because I gave her the heads up that it was coming. But definitely, I think there's a lot of people who would enjoy it. And like I said, I think these images are super, super cute. So because I left my sentiment in my Misty, I can go ahead and restamp that. I just tried to kind of press only where I missed. Add a little more embossing powder, and we'll just do a quick heat up before I place this in my box where I keep my gouache. So here's a little fun tip, and I think this is something that I'm actually going to keep doing. I have this shallow plastic storage box I wasn't using, and I actually used it to splatter some gouache. Well, I have leftover gouache in here from another project. I actually just reactivated it with a little bit of water and picked it up with a clean paintbrush and splattered it for a starry sky. You guys, I think I'm going to continue using this plastic box because I can reuse it. I didn't even have to get out any new gouache. Because I have that little bit left there, reactivate it with a tiny drop of water and you're good to go. I didn't over splatter my background. I felt like I tried to keep it a little bit more subtle and that looks good. I am going to add some little grassy areas with some Copic markers to my background using YG95 and 99, and then we are going to attach our mouse house and our sleeping mouse with foam adhesive. So everything for my card is going to be adhered with foam adhesive. I love definition. I love foam adhesive. Foam adhesive for life. Who's with me? If you love foam adhesive, drop me a comment down below. Let me know I'm not alone, because I feel like I had little foam adhesive square backing all over my office when I was done putting these together. But worth it. Totally worth it. I will save you a little time and add those off camera. I want to put my house kind of right down here below my sentiment, and then I want to tuck my sleeping mouse next to the mouse house. I actually had to move it. I had put it a little too far over and there wasn't enough room for this cute little guy, and I did not want to cut him off. The background does measure A2, so it's going to fit the entire front of an A2 size card base. Now the little door opens a bit, and I do want to tuck one of my tiny little mice coming out of the door. Now these mice, obviously their eyes are open. They have big eyes. I'm going to take a black jelly roll pen and add the detail in for their eyes so their faces really pop. And then when the black jelly roll is completely dry, I am going to take a white pen and add highlights back to their eyes. And that will finish it really, really nicely, I think. Make their little faces cute. So this is about it. Now, I already had stamped and embossed my sentiment, and I realized I had forgotten to add one of the little sleepy sentiments from the Sleeping Mouse stamp set. So I will be stamping like the little Z's coming up from him, which I think is a fun little finishing touch. We also are going to take white and sparkle or stardust jelly roll pens and add detail to the flowers. I think it just gives a little bit more of that magical feeling to a nighttime scene. I am a huge, huge fan of white and stardust jelly roll pens on top of Copic coloring. They don't change the color underneath. They simply add great detail and accents to what you already have. So I did want to make mention of that here because I am going to be adding that. You probably noticed it in the finished card. And like I said, I feel like it just adds to the magical nighttime storybook feeling maybe. I tend to really love images like this, remind me of children's storybooks, and so I really like that. For the door, so that it doesn't just swing open, I put one foam adhesive square here, but I didn't love it. I felt like it smashed it down a little too much. So I'm actually going to layer another foam adhesive square right on top of that first one, which props it open a tiny bit, but still makes it stay put. Hope that makes sense. I am going to add a little heart embellishment to the doorknob. Here's those little sleeping Z's coming up from the mouse, which I couldn't resist. I thought they were just so super cute. There's also like the little shh, you know, that you could use, which I think is really cute as well. I think this image, depending on how you color it, could make some really cute baby cards too. And there's those little Z's. Aren't those fun? I did go back with RV99, and I noticed I really hadn't added the dot detail that I was looking for. So I'm going to go in and I'm adding that to my flower. Now I wanted to use my dark red color for the red flower. It does not show up. So I actually ended up using RV99 for the red flower as well, and it looks amazing. So just wanted to make mention of that there. I'm going to add some additional little stars to my nighttime sky with these little itty bitty silver star confetti pieces. Love them. And then, of course, I do want to take my pens, as I was mentioning, grabbing that little heart first. Just going to glue that down, and I kept dropping it. I really, really need a new tip for my embellishment wand. And then just some little extra stars. I felt like I needed a few more. I'm just going to pop those in place, pick up any of the extras, and then I am going to grab my white and Stardust pen. So let's start with white. I've really been into that magical kind of soft, sweet thing lately, I guess. And look at the difference already with just a few little white dots. I love how this finishes off an image. So we will go ahead and add the Stardust kind of over the top of this. It's glittery in real life. Then we will place this entire panel on a white top fold card base, and that finishes up our Mouse House card. Next up, we're going to do a little Gnome Home. I find it funny that I did Mouse House and Gnome Home, but hey, that is what I like. So all of the images for this stamp, or for this card, pardon, are from that Gnome Home stamp set, and I'm going to use a lot of the same colors. I decided I really wanted to try to do a different scene card, but use the same colors of markers. I already had them all out. We're using the house, the mouse, the gnome, the clothesline, which is darling and like the little clothes basket, for our card today. I am going to speed through the coloring pretty good, but definitely keep in mind all of the same color combinations. I have listed these. I've separated it down below in the description, so you can easily reference it and know what part of the image was colored with which markers. This will also feature some little white dot embellishment when we're all finished as well, but I'm going to do more of a daytime scene instead of a nighttime scene for this particular card. We're also going to use my favorite technique for the background, which is a little stenciling with text stamping over it. It's very, very subtle, but that's what I like. I love a little subtle surprise, I guess, if you will, in the background. I'm loving this muted red with the yellow dots, or dots, how about spots, and then the underneath of the mushroom. Look at that, so fun. I also think that the little mouse image with the mushroom would be cute paired with this one. So you could totally take the mice from the last stamp set and combine them with this one. You could use the sleeping mouse with this one. You could take the gnome and you could move him to the other house if you wanted to. Mix and match and have fun, you guys, because there's a lot of great new stamp sets with this release. For the base of my mushroom house, I am using E81, 84, and 87, and this is a really good example of not over blending. So the top of the mushroom, I really worked to blend it out. I did not want any harsh lines. For the base of the mushroom, much like the smaller one, but you can see it a lot better on this one, I want texture. So I went in and did an all over layer of E81. Then I am taking E87 and kind of flicking or feathering the dark color from the top and the bottom. And then I am going in with E84 and I'm doing the same thing, but pulling the dark color from the top and the bottom and just not over blending. So there's lots and lots of texture. Then we're using E55 and 57 for that wood door frame. I mean, look at the detail, you guys. I absolutely love it. Warm gray 6, warm gray 5 and 7 for the hinges and the doorknob. We're going to use those same colors we used for the base of the mushroom house for the window frames. For the window boxes, I'm going to go back to E55 and 57. That's the color combination used for the door and the door frame. And I will also use E55 and 57 for our clothesline. The windows from this will also die cut out, which is amazing. Look at that fun little house, little window boxes, so, so cute. Now, once we have our mushroom house all colored in, time for time for detail. I totally forgot. I did go back with RV99. So remember I said that the dark red doesn't really add that dot detail great. I pulled in RV99 to add some dot detail there, and then we're going to move on to the clothesline. I love the cute little clothes hanging on the clothesline. We're sticking with our same color combination, so we're going to have like some blue greens. I like this kind of darker aqua teal color combination. The dark red for like the little boxers hanging on the clothesline. I love that they have little polka dots, but I did not want to color around the little polka dots. So here's my next tip. If you have something super small like this, I colored over the whole thing. I did all of my ink blending, made sure I blended it out really good. Then I went back with my white Jelly Roll pen and I added those dots back in, and that way it's super quick and easy, and you didn't have to try to color around all of those little dots, which is next to impossible, at least for me. Some little yellowish socks, and then of course the little mouse with his gnome hat I think is hilarious. You can't even see his face, so because his face is clear up in the hat, which I think is really, really cute. The hats are super detailed. I went a little extra. I colored all the sections with different colors because I really wanted to have a lot of colors represented here. The Gnome Home is pretty basic, a lot of earth tones with those dark reds. The clothesline has a little bit of color, but the real color comes in the mouse's hat, the gnome's hat, and then of course the clothes in the basket. Lots of back and forth here between all of the marker colors. Just coloring in all those fun little sections. Now, the only difference between the two cards is I did have to go pull a few extra marker colors. That's going to be E13 and 11 for the ears and the nose on the gnome, and warm gray 3 and 1 for the beard on the gnome. I didn't have anything like that out already, and I love being able to add that great little texture there. That's kind of my go-to color combination for gnome beards. And then we're just simply going to color in the hat. I don't know if you can see it very well here on camera. Maybe in the final finished photos you can see it a little better. One of the stripes on the gnome hat has rainbows in it. It is so cute, you guys. Now, I also want to encourage you, color this in any color scheme that you like. I was really kind of just trying to push myself out of my comfort zone for these cards. This also had a section of the hat that had polka dots, so I did my same technique that I did for the little shorts hanging on the line, where I colored it in, and then I went back with my white Jelly Roll pen and added the detail. We have a little bit more for the hat and his outfit, and then of course the laundry basket. And I added quite a bit of color to the laundry basket as well, as I thought it would be a great opportunity to just incorporate a little more color. It is a lot of back and forth between the different markers, but I think it's worth it. Just add a little color here for the gnome, and then the basket is E55 and 57, and then we're going to do like some blues and yellows and reds for the articles of clothing coming out of the basket. We'll grab all the coordinating dies. I snipped them apart and I die cut the images with the coordinating Gnome Home dies. Oh, and there was another little piece of fabric in the laundry basket that had polka dots, so I used the white Jelly Roll pen there as well. For the background of this card, this is going to be a landscape style card. After I die cut everything, I really felt like it fit better landscape. So I'm going to take the Waffle Flower Cloudy Stencil. I really like how it's not the perfect line across. And I'm going to take Speckled Egg and Prize Ribbon, which are the colors I used for the previous card, but we're going to use them to create a more daytime type sky with the clouds. Now, it starts out and it doesn't really look like anything. It's pretty plain Jane, but I'm going to show you how you can get the look of a white pigment ink cloud. So you guys probably have seen me do that before here on my channel, where I will ink blend a background. I'll take the cloud stencil and I will use white pigment ink to create the background. This is another way to achieve that look without white pigment ink. So I'm doing Speckled Egg Distress Oxide first. We're just going to go back and forth across the panel with this edge, applying the color, and I'm being pretty generous. Like, I start at the line and then I am pulling the color clear up into the white section. I'm not leaving a lot of white space. Then after we have our clouds, I think I might do one more border. Maybe not. I'm going to go over the whole thing with my ink blending brush. I haven't re-inked it. I'm just kind of blending this out, softening those edges. And then I'm going to take the same peeled paint Distress Oxide ink and add some green down along the bottom edge to give some landscape for the scene we're building. And then I add a little bit more peeled paint. Oh, I do want to mention, I started with an A2 sized panel. That's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, but I will trim this down to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. For the finished card. I decided to have this one framed up a little bit. It didn't need the entire space, and I do like having a little border a lot of times. So I'm starting out, I lay out my images, and the sky needs a little something. It's okay the way it is, but I really feel like it just needs a little something extra. I also feel like I want to darken the grass just a little bit, so I took some Forest Moss Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to layer that over the peeled paint, like so. I like that. And then we're going to grab prize ribbon, and we're going to gently, starting around the edges, start applying prize ribbon Distress Oxide ink. And almost instantly, it's just a beautiful transformation. The lighter inking underneath still shows through, and it gives you almost that pigment ink look without having to apply the white pigment ink. So we're just deepening and darkening that sky just a little bit. This could almost be a nighttime sky if you wanted to. You could add like a little moon or some stars. I'm going to go around the edges a little darker than I do the center, but I love it. I think it's so super pretty. And then once I have the blending the way I wanted it to look, I'm going to take a friendship text background stamp from Simon Says Stamp and some white pigment ink, and we are going to stamp that white text over the background. I did do that off camera. I did not realize my camera was off, so I do apologize. And then we are going to simply attach all of these images to our little scene. Now, I did trim this down off camera to 4 by 5 1/4, as I mentioned. You can see that the text in the background is super, super subtle, which is what I wanted. I didn't want it to be overwhelming. I also want it to completely dry, because it is a pigment ink. That includes the Distress Oxide and the white pigment ink used for the text. Normally I would stamp the sentiment before I moved on. And that reminds me, for the first card, I actually let my background set overnight before I stamped my sentiment. That's why I was able to go ahead and stamp that, and the embossing powder stuck only to the sentiment and not to the background. So I gave this background probably a good 5 hours to dry while I did other things during the day before coming back to it and stamping my sentiment from the Gnome stamp set. I attached all my images to this scene with foam adhesive as well. That's the clothesline, the basket, the mouse, the house, and then the gnome is in front of everything. I actually did put foam adhesive behind him, so he's like a whole nother layer up. It's still not too super thick, but I just felt like it helped him pop from the rest of the scene a little bit. So cute, you guys. I just love these new images. I'm going to go in with my white pen, and we're going to add some little white dot detail. And it just elevates this mushroom house so much. I love how it ends up looking. I also added like some little lines to the spots. And then we will stamp and emboss the sentiment. Now, here is a tip. I actually didn't have any solid red hearts in this deep dark red color. And so I took some little white hearts and I colored them with Copic markers, the same color of Copic markers that I used for the rest of this card, so that they match perfectly. Not only do I want the front of the hearts to have this color, but I'd also like the sides to have that color too, so that when you look at it from the side, it looks like a solid red heart. I use my tweezers to hold on to the heart since they're so teeny tiny while I colored those edges, and then I'm simply going to glue those in place right on my card design. You could do this with any color that you want to customize. The white hearts are fantastic for this. If you need hearts in a certain color, try coloring them with your Copic markers and see if you like the custom heart result. I just love that they're this deep, dark, solid red that matches my card. So I'm going to do 2 of them over here on the left side, and we will do another right underneath where our sentiment's going to go. And at the time, I was still waiting for my background to dry, so I waited to add the sentiment till last. Normally I don't do that, but it worked out today. And I'm using my tweezers. Look at those little hearts. Aren't they fun? The final thing we're going to do is stamp and emboss our sentiment, "You're a friend like Gnome Other." And then I will place this entire panel on a white side fold card base, and that will finish up our card design. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video featuring eye-catching Copic coloring, as well as the brand new stamps and dies from the Colorado craft company Kris Lauren February 2022 release. There are so many other good stamps and dies, so definitely make sure and check it out. The supplies I use to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. If you would like to become a member of Patreon, please click the link in the description below. For the top tier, we have an exclusive live every month, as well as you get early access content and videos and some other fun perks. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure and hit that like button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new card making video. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here and sharing some of your day with me, and we will see you next time. Bye.